new champion, while it contemplates changes on pit road and the final race ever at Ascot Park. This and more next on Speed Week.
Speed Week is brought to you by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value, welcome home, America.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins. The long journey has been completed, and the 1990 Winston Cup season has ended, with Dale Earnhardt emerging as a four-time champion. Dale entered the race 6 points ahead of Mark Martin, who knew he had to win and lead the most laps to assure himself of the championship. In the drivers' meeting, race director Dick Beatty made it clear that both should be treated equally on the racetrack.
If one of you guys on the 6 car and the 3 car, if you hit one of them, you better damn well find the other one and hit him too. I'm telling you now, don't show either car no favors.
What if they hit us?
If they hit you, then you...
Rusty Wallace started from the pole for the second straight race, while Earnhardt began from 6th and Martin from 11th. That 6-point advantage climbed to 11 when Dale passed Rusty to become one of 9 drivers that would lead. The hoped-for wheel-to-wheel battle between the two championship contenders never developed. They did find each other during the race, but it was for 10th spot. Mark had a tough day. He had an ignition failure, a flat tire, ran out of gas twice, but still managed a 6th-place finish. And speaking of tough days, and for that matter, tough year, Rick Wilson crashed out of his 6th race this year. He was the only driver to start all 29 events who failed to lead a single lap during the 1990 season. Morgan Shepherd became the 14th different winner in 1990, tying a modern-era record. It was his first win since he took the checkered flag here in March of 1986. And it was a very important one for Morgan and car owner Bud Moore because it put them in the NASCAR Winner's Circle program worth $250,000. Earnhardt finished 3rd, earning him the Winston Cup, the $1 million bonus, the Chevrolet Manufacturer's title, and completing his dream season that will boost his career earnings to near the $13 million mark.
I wanted to try to lead this race and win it, and I thought I had a shot there at the end, but the tires wouldn't let us do it. And we won a few awards, today, and locked them up, and we're proud to go away from here champions and 4-time champions, especially.
Well, I'm pretty happy, with the season. I'm real disappointed we didn't win the championship. The only way I could be happier, though, is if we would have won it. We gave them our best. We put together our best effort for this race. We ran as hard as we could go. Some things came up short on us. We got beat by the best. I don't know what else to say. Those guys have been next year, too.
Earnhardt's 4th Winston Cup puts him within 3 of Richard Petty, who has 7. But it moves him ahead of 3-time champions Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson, and Lee Petty. The excitement of crowning a Winston Cup champion in the final race of the year was marred by another incident on pit road, the 5th in as many events. Less than 50 laps from the finish, during a caution period, Ricky Rudd's right rear brake locked up, sending the car side serviced by his crew. Jackman Tommy Cole and right rear tire changer Mike Ritch were both struck. Cole sustained an arm injury. Ritch died of cardiac arrest during surgery at Georgia Baptist Medical Center hours after the race was over. Well, joining us now is Benny Parsons. And Benny, you mentioned right after the incident that this type of thing affects all of us in the auto racing community because we're one big family.
Bob, these crewmen spend 30 weekends a year together, 3-4 days. That's 125 days a year the crewmen spend together. They spend more times with each other than they do their families, some of them. So we are one big family. And this is the 5th race in a row that we've had an incident on pit road, and just something has got to be done.
Benny, what can be done? What's your solution to the problem?
First thing we got to do, Bob, we got to reduce the amount of cars on pit road somehow, some way. Back when they started closing pit road when the caution flag comes out, that really and truly gets all the cars on the pit road at the same time. We've got to stop that. One thing, when the caution flag comes out, only the cars on the lead lap can pit the first time when pit road is open. The next lap, cars one lap down can pit. And after that, the rest of the cars can pit. That way, every third lap you'd have cars coming in, and it would distribute cars on the pit road evenly.
Have you talked with anybody from NASCAR? Do they plan on making some changes?
Bob, I did call Dick Beatty, the technical director for NASCAR, because Beatty is concerned. I know he's concerned. He cares about his family. And those 400 or 500 guys I mentioned, that's Beatty's family. And what he said to me is, we've got to do something, and we will do something before 1991.
Thanks, Benny. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at the Winston Cup Awards banquet.
Thanks, Bob, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share my ideas with you.
All right, Benny. Obviously a very concerned Benny Parsons. Despite the numerous incidents on pit road, last Sunday's tragedy was the first fatality in the pit area in over 11 years.
Speedweek is
Coming up next, the Turkey Night Grand Prix ends an era at Ascot. And later on the road to recovery with A.J. Foyt. To its schedule. Last week, CART President Johnny Caples paid a visit to New Hampshire International Speedway and confirmed that the track meets or exceeds CART's requirements for competitors, safety, media, and sponsors. If the Indy cars do run at that 1-mile track, it'll be the first time in modern-day history that they've competed in New England. A.J. Foyt told a Houston television station earlier this week he would compete one more year and then retire from racing. Foyt continues to recover from injuries suffered at Road America in September. Now, he returned to Indianapolis late last week for a visit with Dr. Terry Trammell and revealed he's already violated the doctor's orders and surprised everyone by getting back behind the wheel of a car.
I'm just not the type of guy that be in a bed, you know, or a wheelchair. And I'm not the type of guy that likes to ask people to do things for me. And like the other day, I know everybody had a heart attack, and they more or less said, you can't drive this and that. And I drove over to the race shop, and everybody like to died. They says, you know, and I used the cruise control, and I was using the heel of that one cast, and I had a pillow for my other leg, and nobody could believe it. I drove, and I said, I'm going to drive over there. I'm tired of people driving. So I hooked the seat belt, you know, and I went on over there and felt kind of proud. I was a little bit nervous, you know, because I knew if somebody darted real quick, I was going to clip them, but I was and everybody said if you had a wreck and the cops would come up and seen you like that, they'd put you in jail for drunk driving.
This visit to Indianapolis was for the purpose of taking the cast off his right leg and removing some pins that were holding the bones in place. AJ seems to be on schedule, but Dr. Trammell doesn't think Foyt will be in the starting lineup when the 1991 IndyCar season begins.
Because the season starts, first of all, it starts in Australia, which is kind of out of the Long Beach is a street course, which is difficult for anybody. That's not a good place to start after you've had a lot of foot and ankle problems on both sides. So I think Indianapolis is most realistic, and possibly Phoenix. I'd like to get 3 ovals down before we try and do anything with a road course. And that'd be Phoenix, Indianapolis, and Milwaukee. And if we make Indianapolis, that'll be on schedule. Phoenix would be gravy.
You also saw Al Unser visiting with Foyt at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. He too continues to heal from racing injuries suffered last season. Assess a couple of their drivers who have proven themselves in other forms of racing but have limited oval experience. One of them, off-road star Robbie Gordon, was on the pole in a Winston Cup legal car with a speed faster than Rusty Wallace's, but at the start was passed by the more experienced veteran oval tracker Charlie Glotzbach. Gordon's performance impressed the Ford brass on hand, including Lee Morse, the manager of performance operations, and Michael Kranifus, the director of special vehicle operations. Gordon led for a while and ran in the top 3 most of the day, but late in the race hit some oil dry from a previous crash and spun into the wall, eventually ending his day. PO champion Dorsey Schrader in the red 69 had a little bit better day, weaving his way through traffic and finishing runner-up to Glotzbach. Schrader plans to run a few ARCA races, a few in the Busch Grand National Series, and some Winston Cup events in 1991. Gordon's next assignment with Ford is a test drive in the Formula One Benetton car. That team is looking for a replacement for the injured Sandro Nannini. There are those who say the only way to Formula One is to go to Europe and stay there. Have been successful. Well, Ritch Died has spent some time with one young racer out to make a name for himself, although it's a name you're probably already familiar with.
First things first, his name is those Firestones. His great-great-grandfather, Harvey, started the Firestone Rubber Company, which is why it's pretty embarrassing to race a car with Goodyear tires.
You know, as long as I don't stay on Goodyear the rest of my life, I don't think anyone will really mind if you know, dabble over here.
Last week, he was at Phoenix International Raceway running in the USAC 2000 series. But this has been his home for the last year, running the Opel Lotus series in Europe.
I went to Europe to race because I think you will become a better driver over there for the simple fact that the competition is so stiff. And they're much more aggressive over there. And in that sense, I mean, I'm battling as hard as I would for 10th, 11th spot as I will for first place almost anywhere.
He's discovered that this series has been his ultimate learning experience.
In my last race, as I'm coming up through the field, I'm being pushed off in the grass twice, battling for 15th spot and trying to be pushed into a slower car. They're very aggressive, and it really teaches you race tactics.
His goal is simple, to be the first Firestone to make it as a professional race car driver.
My dad worked with the racing division. I grew up around you know, a lot of the drivers and a lot of the teams. And you know, as growing up around it, it's very glamorous, very exciting. It's sort of hard not to be attracted to it, and I definitely have the bug.
Even if it means running on Goodyear tires. In Phoenix, I'm Ritch Died reporting for Speedweek.
Nick finished fourth in that Formula 2000 race at Phoenix, won by Vince Puleo. Next year, he plans to continue racing in Europe with an eye toward Formula One. In the modern era, only 5 Americans have won Formula One races. At the top of the list, Mario Andretti, who will join us here next week to talk about a variety of subjects, including retirement.
I have a contract that takes me through 91, but I think I will look at my situation about midway through the season and decide whether I want to continue. In fact, what I'm going to do from now on, I'm going to sort of take it from year to year.
At the Atlanta track this past weekend was the new logo. Looks very much like Charlotte Motor Speedways, and that's because they are now owned by the same person, Bruton Smith. He's already begun to make some changes there, like an expanded press box and a lot of new paint. But these are just minor compared to what's planned. We were the first to be shown an artist rendering of what Smith hopes the track will look like in the future. Plans include the construction of condominiums similar to those at Charlotte.
We're working with all the county commissioners and the Visitors Tourism Bureau, the people in the governor's office, and we're hoping that we will get some support from these areas that they've offered that, where we can then go forward and do the things we want to do here, because our program is to spend about $75 million a year at this facility.
Bruton says the track will be available to the 1996 Olympic Games for anything that it can be used for. Well, last week we told you that besides the championship, several other Winston Cup drivers were in a points battle. Well, here's how it all came out. Earnhart's final $1 million check is $670,000 larger than Martin's. Jeff Bodine won the battle for third spot over Bill Elliott, a $65,000 difference. Shepard's win moved him up one position to 5th in the final standings. Last year's champion wound up 6th. That's the second largest drop for the champion from one year to the next since 1984. Ricky Rudd was the only one in the top 14 whose position didn't change last Sunday. Kulwicki gained one spot, so did Irvin and Schrader. Kyle Petty was the big loser, dropping from 8th to 11th, a difference of $34,000. Brett Bodine won the tight battle with Davey Allison. Marlin lost 2 positions, and Labonte held steady in 15th. 16 through 19 stayed the same. Darrell Waltrip won the final bonus-paying spot over Dave Marcus and $22,000. All of that money and the awards will be handed out 2 weeks from tonight at the Winston Cup Awards Banquet in New York City. And we'll televise it live here on ESPN from 9 until 11 o'clock and then follow it with a live Speed Week. And next week we'll be on again at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday night. And that will do it for another edition of Speed Week. Again, our sincere congratulations from all of us here to Dale Earnhardt and the Richard Childress team in winning the Winston Cup. And we leave you this week with some sights and sounds from Championship Sunday. So long, everyone.
He's the hardest-headed, toughest competitor I've ever seen in my life.
Good luck, Dale. Hey, man. Good luck to you.
That's yours, baby.
Word later on. If he wins, I think one, yeah. But as long as Mark don't start singing, I won't start driving. That's our deal.
They're going to get to the sign now. Good luck, Dale. Good luck.
Who, him? Yeah. He don't know no better. Come on, guys. Back behind the banner.
Have a good day, bud. You too.
I think you ought to have him like a Daytona.
Jack is a hell of a race, boy. Praise the Lord.
You know, nobody won over 4 but Richard Petty, and he's won 7. He's king. Still, we're Western Cup champion. That's what we're proud of. And, you know, 3 or 4, hopefully 5, you know, we'll take them.